Okay, hello all you crazy people out there. My name is Michael, I like wizards and dragons and making games, and it is time to make some tower defense games. It's been a while since I've worked on this. Hopefully I'm back doing it consistently because time and having slightly more of that than before, but we shall see. So, where was I? If I recall, there was this really ugly, tower model that I made, and this other really ugly, fire tower model that I made. Something along those lines, and this one would inflict burn status and do damage over time or something like that, and this one would just do regular damage. Let's see. Am I able to make it through these test 5 rounds without dying? The problem is these guys don't have health bars, so it's hard to see how much health anything has. That's something I would probably get around to adding to the UI later. Either allowing you to click on a monster and see its numbers, its movement speed, its health, its whatever, or showing a little rectangle above their head. Let's see, how many of these can I can build some towers. This has been my life for the last years, playing tower defense games. It looks like, I think this is the last wave. It looks like I should be able to get through that. Alright, well, anyway, the plan for today, aside from fooling around, is going to be adding some new towers. Initially, I was planning on trying to just make a single video where I implemented 5 towers. That's clearly not going to work after looking through the last video and how long everything took, and that was just one basic kind of tower that does one thing, and I've got some notes for other types of towers that do other types of things, and this is not gonna fit in a single video. So today I'm gonna be doing I believe I mentioned, yeah, this page. I believe I mentioned bug spray, which would be a tower that would create a cloud of poisonous bug spray or something. As part of the same coin, I thought a flypaper of a sort of slowdown trap. It's pretty common in tower defense games to see slowdown hazards of various kinds that you can afflict enemies with a slowing status, and that will allow other towers to get more hits in on them. Let's start with the bug spray. I am just giving up. I'm surrendering when it comes to 3D modeling. I'm just going to make a purple, vaguely can-shaped cylinder and call it a day. This will be tower spray or something. And I believe that saved as a GameMaker model file because I didn't specify an extension. I like my 3-letter file extensions. We'll do that. Okay, so let's collapse this. I'm going to create another tower type. That is going to be... Oh, I say I already did spray as a tower type, bug spray. And we can just have it load that particular 3D model on the... Where's the room? Room. RM_test. It's going to stay that way forever, probably. In this room, we can go and create another button on the UI that would allow us to actually add that. Let's see. Creation code. Tower spray. There we go. At some point, I should probably have something like a cost listed on these buttons as well. Let's see, is there a variable definition or anything? Okay, so there is text. All right, variable definition. This can be bug spray. Okay, enough of that. This will instantiate one. I don't believe this has any particularly special effect. I can instantiate a purple tower of bug spray. That looks really bad with a flat shading on. At least right now. It's gonna look really bad regardless. I should not worry too much about how good or bad something looks. And I'm going to have this spawn its own. It's like clouds of bug spray around it periodically. So let's piggyback off of bullet. No, not that. Let's piggyback off of one of these other tower types. Did I subclass the... I could have sworn I subclassed the tower data for some other things. I probably should have looked through this project. Game entity stuff. Entities? I probably should have looked through this project before I sat down to record. Entity tower buff. Okay, that'll do. And these are just the archetypes. Okay, got it. Where do I instantiate one of these? Oh, it's in the creation code. All right. One of the few places where I'm using the room editor. And I'm mostly okay with that. That is entity tower buff. I'm looking for entity. I created a new one. We will fill this in soon. Entity tower spray. Okay. That has been connected, and in the update function, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I do not need a buff method. I also do not need a get target method. This tower will be doing neither of those things. We are just going to, on probably like a 3-second timer or so, I wrote that down. Okay, so the like preliminary numbers that I came up with was 2 clouds per second, and the clouds of poison gas last 1.5 seconds. So there will be about 4 of them on screen at once, 3 of them on screen at once. Possibly that could be upgraded later. I'll worry about upgrades later. Let's see. So update. There's a shot cooldown, and normally this is actually when a tower shoots something. Instead, for this, I'm going to say anytime the shot cooldown is less than or equal to 0. I'll give this another method. Spawn gas or something. Spawn spray. To be precise. And spawn sprays can be a method. No parameters. At least not right now. It could be parameterized later. The actual shot cooldown should be set in there. All right. Much like the shooting and the debuffing systems. And for the time being, show debug message. We'll go with gas for now. What's the cost? Am I going to be able to instantiate one of these immediately? It looks like I should. I think I start the game with 75, and I now have this costs 40. All right, so indeed, every second or so, it's doing that. What's the actual fire rate? Fire rate is 1. If I make the fire rate 2, it'll be doing that twice as often. All right, indeed, that is going off twice as often. Okay, I can get rid of that. Let's mark a commit. In actual, where is actual Bombardier? Here it is. Poison gas. I keep calling it that. Bug spray is more lore friendly or something. Now to actually do this, I suppose, and this is going to be more programmer error. I swear I will put more thought into this at a future date. This is going to be just a cloud of gross. I have an idea of how I want to do that. Once the model creator opens. Okay, here we go. This is going to be a bugspray.d3d. This is definitely something that one would use a particle system for later, but for now we'll just create a programmer art mesh. Let's see. I don't have anything that's just like a general vertex buffer, do I? Aside from the ground, which is kind of lame. All of the vertex buffers are currently either loaded into a faux data or a bullet data or a tower data or one of the environment objects stored in the environment objects list. This is just kind of miscellaneous. Oh no, there's the skybox and the test ball. All right, well, we can just stick it here for now. This is most likely going to be temporary. like this. And now we need to actually make this appear. So this would be an entity of sorts. When you create a tower or something of that nature, does this kind of add itself to the entity list? It does not, right? All entities. Okay, here. Okay, so it's pretty simple. Collision. I'm not going to worry about collision on these things. I'm going to have them detect if something walks through them through other means. Add to map. It's really just DSList add to the entity list, though. Okay, that's all I wanted to know. So in here, when you respawn something, I can say, let's subclass this again in some way or another. What's the base class? Okay, it's just an XYZ position by the looks of it. I'm gonna prefix that with entity, and we'll take a position. Okay, fine. We won't take a position. We'll take an X, Y, Z. It's kind of lame. If you want to use the super class constructor calling invoke the parent constructor, you have to either use a parameter that's already a parameter to the constructor or a compile time constant. You can't just say like position.x, position.y, position.z. It's kind of annoying. Nevertheless, we also have a render method, don't we? All right, let's just borrow a render method. So let's borrow a render method. Transform. Position.xyz, scale.xyz. That's probably always going to be 1. Probably. I do not need to add in the rotation or anything. Matrix set that, and vertex submit. Game.bugSprayCloud. The texture is going to be a nice -1. And reset the identity matrix. Okay, this may cause issues with transparency because these bubble things are semi-transparent around the edges. Oops, did not actually mean to close that. But oh god, I lost my train of thought. Where were we? I need to spawn one of these. Going back to the spawn spray thing. New one of those. The position for now, we'll just say position.x plus random range. Let's say -32, 32. And we'll do the same on the y and z. Momentarily, once I see that this is spawning something to begin with, I will go about picking more intelligent locations to put these. For example, always spawning them somewhere on the track. This is going to eventually like slow the game down. Okay. Well, it's doing it. It's going to eventually slow the game down because it's creating more and never destroying them. They're never timing out or anything. And it would probably help if they're just a solid color, to be honest. Since this is programmer art, it doesn't even have to be fancy. It'll just the alpha blending. This game is not set up to do anything with transparency in 3D because transparency in 3D sucks, and you have to do annoying things to work around it. So we'll just grab the color, alpha 100%, and those are going to be fully opaque bubbles. All right. Not spending quite as much time on the programmer art in this video as I did in the last one. I just had to like cut enormous swaths of time out in that last one, but looks better. I'm still probably spending more time there than I need to. Bug spray tower spawns bug spray. It would be more like sprays bug spray or something. Perhaps animation will be something that I worry about in the future, but not right now. Okay, so to start with, I'm going to be picking random positions, but I'm going to favor positions that are actually on a track. What's the best way to do that? All right, I could generate random points around the tower until one of them happens to land on the track. That will have the issue of, like, if you place one of these things a distance away from the track where you're outside the radius, then you have an infinite loop when you try to spawn something, and then the game breaks. Of course, you could always cut it off after like 50 attempts, assuming that you'll find something valid within the first 50 attempts. I could also honestly just not do that, but that wouldn't feel good to play. Okay, 1 second. How does the tower figure out if it's on a track or not when you place it? Okay, so there's actually not a way to do that currently, it looks like. I know I was planning to have like the path waypoints that you see in the editor add themselves to the collision grid. If I hit tab and F something, F2, I know I was going to have these nodes add themselves to the grid. I guess I didn't ever actually do that. I probably should. However, because that would make things easier, because this is not going to be the last place that I am going to want to identify locations on the grid. I can say macro grid collision. Let's make this path and make that 2. Let's see. This is going to allow. So the way that the collision free function works is it checks to see if the greatest value in the collision grid is essentially 0. Because a free cell is 0, a filled cell is 1, and as I just added, a path cell is 2. If the maximum value in a grid region that you're checking for collision with is 0, that means that there's nothing in that region and you can place a tower down or whatever. If the value is 1, that means there's going to be some scenery, like a tree or whatever. And if the value of in that region that you check is 2, that's going to mean that there is a path there. This is going to need to be set. Let's see. Let's create a mirror of this function, and it's going to be collision is path. And okay, we're allowed to take an entity. That works. And this is going to return true if the value in the max value in the region is grid collision. What was it? Path. All right, I've forgotten already. Next, that's going to be determined when a path node is added. Which happens when you load something in. Where is the load map function? Path nodes, and whenever a path node is instantiated. Okay. Where are we? That's wave. This is path node. I don't know why this is in the same file as wave. I guess they're related. Add collision. Okay, so they do in fact add their own collision information to the path, but to the collision grid, but not anything special that indicates that they are indeed a path. Okay. This is going to cause a problem if you try to instantiate like some other entity, like a tree, on top of a path, then it's going to overwrite the grid path information. I wish there was a... Okay, I can hardcode this. Okay, so when something gets added to the collision grid, we are going to manually set every cell in it instead of using the dsgrid set region, and the thing that we are going to be setting each cell to is the maximum value of either what's already there or the grid collision filled value. This kind of puts a hierarchy on these different collision cell values. The lower numbers have a lower priority and the higher numbers have a higher priority, so if there's something that would be able to overwrite the path, then that would go above it. And if there was a theoretical object in the future that would have a priority somewhere in between just regular solid stuff and the path, then that would be like 1.5 or whatever, since these don't necessarily have to be integers. Or they could be integers and I could just make this a bigger number or something, but we won't worry about that right now. Let's see. Is that worthy of its own commit? Probably. I have edited the entity class. I've added a function to game.gml. I have added the macro and the waves. The path nodes on the waves add their own collision information to the grid. Okay. That's not the nicest English sentence I've ever written, but it'll do. Okay. Next, when one of these spawns, where we're going, we're not going to the database, we are going to not entity foe, entity tower spray. All right, so let's attack the problem this way. I'm going to say var cloud is going to equal new. We're going to instantiate one of those. First, its position is going to be 0, 0, 0. And then we will attempt 10 times to seek out a random position, which may or may not be on the track. And if you can't find a position to spawn this at which is not on the track, then we're just going to skip. Let's see. Instead of adding a new entity, we're just going to add cloud of our. Now let's say cloud dot position dot x is going to equal I random. Should it be a truly random distance from the tower, or should it be a specific radius? I'm going to go with a specific radius because it'll be a little bit more straightforward and it won't run the problem of spawning clouds like within the tower, which would look a little weird. Okay, they should be able to spawn any distance from the tower, because then if you have like a track that circles back on itself, you want to be able to spawn the gas clouds on any part of the track which is within range, and not just like the parts that's a very specific distance from the tower. But you also don't want them to spawn within the tower, so let's say var distance is going to equal random range. We'll give it a lower bounds of like, what's the radius of the tower? I think 12, so we'll give it a lower radius of 12 and an upper radius of it's just range, right? Active range. Okay, just in case there's any effect that will cause you to have an increased radius as a tower. And then the direction, that's a keyword. I'm going to have to say var dir direction is going to equal random 360 cloud dot position dot x. Is there a reposition method in these things? I think there is. Entity dot reposition. It does not seem that there is. All right, well, in any case, it's just position dot xyz since they're not added to the map anyway. That's not going to break anything. Position dot x is going to equal. Let's say the sign of direction, the distance times the degree sign of direction, our cloud.position.y equals distance times the degree cosine of the degree sign of direction, and this should be that should be positive degree cosine on the x and negative degree sign on the y. Okay, this is not actually going to do anything. That's not actually adding the cloud to anything. Well, it is, but it's not actually attempting to spawn it on anything. We're not quite there yet. If game.collision is path, if the cloud will be on a path, then do this and return. Or at least break. I will not actually return from this in case there's something you want to do at the end of this repeat loop after it's been added. Okay, and again, I won't be doing add to collision for this because we are going to be detecting collisions with the clouds through other means. Something broke. What happened here? Incorrect type, expecting a number. I suspect I'm not actually checking the bounds for this. Okay, this needs to be cell x min, cell y min, cell x max, cell y max. Because the cells are not 1 pixel big in this collision grid, and it's possible that this may run out of bounds. So we're going to say that x min is going to be clamped between 0 and ds grid width. What is it? Game dot collision grid. Y is going to be ds grid height instead. And the same for the maximum bounds. Okay, this should prevent us from trying to do things such as read outside the grid. Is there a... Something is complaining, some syntax is complaining. Missing a parentheses. This should be okay. When you do ds grid set region, it kind of takes care of that for you, and it's not something you have to worry about. Separate issue. More stuff loaded before it broke. Still an incorrect type expecting a number. If I run the game in the debugger when it crashes, or at least when it throws an error, will it automatically stop there? No, it won't, because we are not actually crashing the game. All right, let's set a breakpoint there. I think I'm allowed to use breakpoints in the debugger like this. Will it actually stop? Will it hit that breakpoint? It will. All right, so buffers go away. I don't care about that right now. Okay, spoiler, the debugger did not actually stop on this line, probably because there's no code on it. Let's actually put some code on the show. Debug message. Okay. Let's see if I can figure out what value is incorrect here. I think I know. And it has to do with this being a less than or equals instead of just a less than. This should probably be, what's cell x min, cell x y max. All right, I think this should probably be a -1. Bounds -1. I love me some off by 1 errors. All right, there we go, that worked. I will remove the debug code soon enough, but the thing that I was actually trying to test is that completely explodes now when I try to use it. Okay. This can go, since that problem has been resolved, and tower buff, tower spray. It was somewhere here. Cloud depth position. This is what I think it is, isn't it? It should have a position variable existing. Oh, wait a minute, hang on. I'm surprised this actually let me compile the game to begin with. There was no equal sign there. What could that have possibly... How did that possibly work? That should not have worked. Anyway, we seem... There's some key I can hit that will show a debug overlay, right? Okay, so we are having problems with this. Let me just return from there, and if that doesn't return, if no thing is spawned, we will instead say show debug message. And we'll see if this is we'll see if the problem is that this spray is not getting placed on the map, and go from there. All right. No thing was spawned, indeed, ad infinitum. The other option would have been that like it's being added to the list successfully, but there is it's not being drawn for whatever reason. Okay, collision as path is returning some funny value. So this shouldn't be too complicated of a... God, that's an ugly update method. This shouldn't be too complicated of anything. This shouldn't be too complicated of a bit of code. Oh, I see. This is looking for collision bounding box. Ooh, okay. And all I'm doing is setting the position. I see. Again, it has been a significant amount of time since the last time I did this, which is not making my job any easier. I could have sworn there was an update collision method or something along those lines, or reposition or something. Oh, environment entity has a reposition. Okay. Oh, let me think about this. So we don't really have a radius based on anything. This is just an arbitrary 16 by 16 cube that these environment entities exist in, which is fine for things like trees, less fine for things like towers that have actual sizes that you would actually want to use. Although I see that it does seem that the bounding boxes here are also positioned inside instead of a 16 by 16 square, a 32 by 32 square, or 32 by 32 by 64, I should say, cube instead of a square. I could try to come up with a clever way to account for that, or I could actually just add a reposition method here. And these clouds are a little bigger. Besides, you probably want them to be a little bit generous, because if they're too big, you want it to be in the player's favor so that they feel like they're catching a break instead of getting ripped off by something. 16, 16, and let's make the last dimension like 40. No, they can be cubes. 32. They can be cubes. So we will call reposition on this over here. Cloud reposition x, y, and cloud position.z. Okay. This will actually be moving them and having them actually like participate in collision instead of hopefully, at least that's the plan. And that is indeed not what is happening. Okay, why might collision as path possibly not be actually returning what we want? So taking this a step further, show debug message. Let's print out the value of that. If this does not show me anything interesting, I will print out the value of the x-min, y-min, and so on and so forth. It's somewhere between zeros and undefined. Why is it undefined? I'm not actually placing this thing like out of bounds or anything. Oh, you know what? Am I feeding it the wrong values? Am I putting it at the wrong location? Okay, I'm putting it at the wrong location. So this needs to be relative to my current position. And I don't actually need that since we're not going horizontally or vertically. Okay. Normally I would say this would work, but I know by now that that is not necessarily the case. Okay, we are spawning 2 of these per second, and now that I see it, that is actually really fast. I don't know if I want these to be spawning 2 per second. Well, first let's commit that change. Like this. And then I will make these expire. Let's see if, before I reduce the cooldown time, let's see if it looks better if they expire. We'll say lifetime is going to equal... What did I say? 2 seconds? This is hard-coded. I'll probably parameterize that later. Update is going to be a function. That doesn't take any parameters itself, right? Yeah, that does not take any parameters itself. Lifetime minus equal delta time if lifetime is less than 0, or less than or equal to 0, really. Then we will remove ourselves from the entity list. Is there a method for doing that? No. There's simply a dslist delete. I may want to make this its own method at some point, like add an entity and remove an entity. But that's okay. This is as fancy as removing a struct is going to get. A lot of people, for various reasons, when they want to have a struct delete itself, and this is a bit of a tangent, try to do something like delete self. This does not do what you think it does. I don't like the delete keyword. It doesn't do what most people think it does. I've explained this briefly in the past before, but all delete does is it sets the value of whatever variable you use it on to undefined. The equivalent of this would be self equals undefined, and for obvious reasons you can't do that, and that will just cause your game to break at best and behave strangely at worst. What you have to do if you want to actually have a struct delete itself is make sure that all references to it elsewhere are removed. We're going to do this by just having removing ourselves from the all entities list, since this is the kind of the master list that is keeping track of everything when something despawns. I believe that's what the bullets probably do when they despawn. What do the bullets do when they despawn? That's great. Let's pause that real quick. Whereas, and I really... Oh, there's a destroy method. I wrote a destroy method. That'll help. Okay, we'll be using the destroy method instead, which is basically a nicer version of what I'm doing here, but we'll see if it works first. Okay, they are despawning. That's good. It definitely looks like this felt like it would be a lot slower in my head. We're just going to invoke the delete method on ourselves. And again, this is not part of GML. This is a method that I wrote in the entity class. Oh, it's destroy, not delete. And all it does is what I just said. It looks up our location in the master list of entities and removes it. Okay. How long have I been going for? 51 minutes for this? God. The last thing I'm going to do is actually like reduce the fire rate of this by like a lot. Where are we? Here we are. Okay, so I think it was initially 1 when I copied and pasted the line, and then I changed it, and then I decided I didn't like it. Anyway, here we can iterate through all foes and see if there are any within like our radius. I'm going to define a radius. This is just going to be something like probably. I said let's err on the side of on the side of feeling forgiving. I'm going to make the radius something like 32, which is approximately what it was. In fact, let's make it a little bigger so that it never feels like that something should be inflicted with poison and then isn't. And then I could do a bounding box check on every single entity in the game, but bounding box checks are comparatively slow compared to sphere checks, since all you're doing in a sphere check is literally checking to see if the distance to something is less than the radius. Can I find a section of code that iterates over every enemy in the game and just copy and paste that code? Can I get away with that? Get target. Okay. We're going to borrow this. This is going to be simpler than the get target method of towers because, let's see, we will check to see that we should be erased after checking to poison foes, because again, working in the player's favor by one frame. If the point distance of my position to the foe's position is less than the actual radius, then instead of saying like target foe equals foe and returning the value, we are allowed to poison multiple foes at once. Foe dot, and do these guys actually have a poison method? that I'm allowed to use. I'm pretty sure I wrote something like that, or at least wrote a burn method to go with fire some time ago, but again, it has been a little while. Oh, foe is down here. Burn. Okay, so there's no poison. Well, we're gonna say we're gonna burn just to see if this works. And while the foes are burned while they're updating, I just want to see that this is indeed working, because there is no visual indication that the foe will have the status inflicted on them, aside from a bunch of things appearing in the console. So we can create one of these. We can send some things in. Those are going to spawn some bug spray. Oh no, we're taking damage. Okay, excellent. This is behaving the way I want it to. It looks... Every time I create a new tower type or something like that, I say this looks terrible. And then in the next video, I make something that somehow looks even worse. You died from poison damage. And can I just send everybody in? Can this one thing take down everyone at the same time? Since these clouds of poison can inflict damage on multiple things at the same time. There is randomness in where these things spawn, so they're not always going to actually poison an actual foe as they walk through, but it looks like they are. Okay, this is definitely overpowered. This thing just took down the entire fleet of enemies at once, and the enemies aren't balanced yet, admittedly, but that is a lot better than all the other towers in the game combined were able to do. Okay, let's commit this change. Now it's probably even more important now that I reduced the fire rate of the spray tower, because having it spawn twice as fast would just be even more overpowered. Actually, you know what? Yeah, let's commit this. Okay, next let's create just a mirror function. Burning and poisoning are functionally the same as far as the game is concerned. It's possible that like a fire bug or something like that in the future will be immune to burn, and like a poison bug or something will be immune to poison, but for now, these basically behave the same with different names. Self.status poison equals 0. This means a few things. One is that I need to create some of the macros to go with this. This means a few things. One is that you can have both these statuses at the same time, and then if you are able to set something like that up, you're going to be dealing a lot of damage to these things continuously, which is really good. If you build a fire tower next to a burn tower or something, you'll be doing like a lot of passive damage. I think 8 points total. I was just looking at it. 2 damage for 2 seconds twice. Yeah, 2 damage for 2 seconds is 4 damage per status, and then there are 2 status that do that, so that's 8. The other thing this means, you may have... Let me just actually implement this real quick. Status poison, if that's greater than 0. Burn poison, DPS status poison, timer reduces. This does not check to see if something is already poisoned when it inflicts the status on them. That's okay. Again, erring in the player's favor. This is just going to reset the timer. That should not be capitalized. This is just going to reset the status timer every time it walks through a cloud, even if it's already poisoned. And I would rather have that than if you're already poisoned, then ignore this, because then it's possible that something walks through a poison cloud that's already poisoned, and then the timer wears off, and then it expires, and the player's like, hey, you just walked through that cloud, why did you get healed? Why did you recover almost instantly? And then they feel cheated. This is what I wanted to get done in this video. I think I'm going to cut this off here. Next time, I'm going to be implementing another status, which is going to be, as I think I said earlier, a slowing tower, like flypaper or something. And it's going to work pretty similarly. A lot of the code is going to be very similar to what I wrote today, but it's going to serve a different purpose. Until then, my name is Michael. I like wizards and dragons and making games. If you want to see the code for this, there'll be a GitHub link in the video description. Look for the 0.24 release. I'm losing track. Let me go check. View on GitHub. Okay, yeah, this will be 0.24. Look for the 0.24 week 24 release. Otherwise, I have a Patreon, so if you want to contribute towards these videos being made, there will be links to that in all the usual places as well. If you do that, you can get these videos a day early, hear your name in the credits, that sort of thing. Otherwise, I try to post about 2 game dev videos a week, one of these and one tutorial. I hope you found that interesting, and I will see you all later. Special thanks to David Key, Edward Holt, Emily Koyo, Jason, and Zenith for supporting these videos. If you want to get access to these things a day early, or to see your name in the credits, head on over to the Patreon page in the video description to join the fun.